and welcome to the Upper Arlington Commission on Aging's annual symposium. I am Lori Wengerd. I'm chair of the Commission on Aging, and I'm so excited about today's topic, Be Kind to Your Mind. It's a subject that is on everyone's mind as we see the impact of dementia and other cognitive impairment in the people around us, and we're all really hungry for information on how to keep our brains healthy. So the speakers we have today are at the top of their professions, and I'm so excited that they all said yes to being with you today. You're going to learn so much more about the brain than you ever thought you needed to know. And there's, as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot more information than any of them can give in 40 minutes. So we are inviting you to use the Q&A section if you have questions. It's not the same as a chat. I think only Jennifer and I will be able to see the questions, but we're going to go ahead and moderate those when the speakers are up. And if there are any questions that go unanswered, we will look toward collecting them and maybe sending out information afterward that answers some of those questions. So enjoy the morning. And without further ado, I would love to introduce you to Jennifer Monroe-Sega, our fearless, faithful, wonderful, spectacular executive director of the Commission on Aging. And she's our host today. So Jennifer, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Lori, for that nice introduction, and welcome everyone. So thank you for joining today. We're in unprecedented times and new adventures. So thank you for joining us on our annual symposium, Be Kind to Your Mind. And a little bit about the commission. We have been around for 30 plus years, and our mission is to serve as the informed voice, empowering, educating, and enriching the lives of Upper Arlington residents as we age. So aging, for most people, you know what, it's wonderful. If you live another day, you are aging. So it transcends, it's just not a number. So we appreciate that. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Home Care Assistance, Senior Servicing Company, Ganshorn Suites, Northwest Eye Care, Elder Life Solutions, Ohio Living, the McIntosh Company, Mayfair Village, Centero, Arlington Court, Danbury, and the Forum at Knightsbridge. And just
That's an impressive list, Jennifer. So thank you again, as Jennifer said, to everybody because we are a nonprofit organization supported in great measure by the sponsors. So thank you all for participating with us.
So we truly appreciate it, and it helps us continue our mission to help everybody as we go through the aging process. So before we begin, just some housekeeping. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will share a link with you, and we will also have it on the Commission's website, which is UACOA.com. I will edit out all the unnecessary fluff and make that available to you. And then we invite your comments and questions. We will, after each speaker, we will have a short time for questions, and also at the end of the webinar. We will also share information on if you have additional questions to chat with the participants. So without any further ado, I want to present our first speaker, Dr. Lauren Wengerd. She's an occupational therapist and lecturer at The Ohio State University. She has a PhD in health and rehabilitation sciences with a specialization in neuroscience, and has extensive clinical experience with adults with neurological conditions. So without any further ado, I present to you Dr. Lauren Wengerd.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jennifer, and also a shout out to my Aunt Lori, who I'm sure if any of you picked up on, I'm her namesake, I think, Lauren Wengerd and Lori Wengerd. It's hard to deny that we are related. So I'm really excited to be here with them and with all of you. And as Jennifer said, my background, well, let me share my screen first, make sure that that's working. Let's see here. Okay. Oops, we're a little bit ahead here, just a second. So my background is actually in occupational therapy. That's kind of where my journey began, and I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with occupational therapy, but what we really focus on in occupational therapy is getting people back to being independent with their daily activities, regardless of, age or disability, making sure that people have high independence with their activities of daily living and are able to engage with their environment. And that kind of led me into my PhD, which was my interest in, really figuring out how do I improve people's outcomes after a cognitive impairment due to a neurological injury. So I largely focused on stroke and traumatic brain injury and looked at this principle of neuroplasticity, which is what we're going to talk about today. And the principles of neuroplasticity that apply to, recovering after stroke or brain injury are the same ones which apply, are very similar at least, in the ways that we want to promote healthy aging. We're going to use those same mechanisms to really try and promote healthy aging across the lifespan. And hopefully today you will leave with the sense that you can age with grace and age gracefully, and cognitive decline is not inevitable. There are so many different things, so much exciting research coming out that demonstrates there's so much we can do to enhance our cognitive performance across the lifespan. So, with that said, let me go ahead and start presenter mode. Jennifer or Lori, can you confirm that you can see I have a few different computer monitors, so I want to make sure that you guys are looking at the right screen.
I can see you, Lauren, the science of neuroplasticity and building. I have your, yeah.
It's not presenter view, you just have the slides. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the topic today is, like I just mentioned, the science of neuroplasticity and building new pathways to promote healthy aging. And let me move this over. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the neuroscience of healthy aging and what a normal healthy brain looks like. We're going to talk about neuroplasticity, what is it and how does it impact aging? And then we will talk about a few different ways to harness the power of neuroplasticity to keep our minds sharp. Now, as Jennifer and Lori both mentioned, 40 minutes is a limited amount of time to be able to cover this huge topic, obviously. And so I'm going to try and condense it into some really tangible action items that you guys can take away and move with today. So 2.1 billion, I found this to be incredibly interesting. The number of adults over the age of 65 worldwide will be 2.1 billion people by the year 2050, which is pretty incredible. And that has lent itself to a tremendous amount of research and interest in this concept of aging and cognitive aging in particular, and how do we prevent cognitive decline as we age. And so I wanted to start with just a brief overview of how science has increased our understanding of the aging brain over time. So on the left here, you can see kind of what our old understanding really up until 20 years ago was of cognitive aging. It was kind of understood that aging meant extensive cell loss, that brain aging was inevitable, passive deterioration, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. New learning wasn't possible beyond a certain age, and up until about 15 years ago, it wasn't really proven that new neurons could be created or that new neuronal connections could be created beyond childhood. And so it's really exciting that none of that is true. So that's the good news. So our current understanding of cognitive aging, as you can see on the right, dementia and Alzheimer's diseases, as you know, those terms that are very scary as we think about aging. While age is a risk factor for dementia and Alzheimer's disease, those diseases are not inevitable. There are things that we can do, lifestyle modification factors that we can make to decrease our risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease, which we will talk about. The brain does unfortunately experience cell loss as we age. That is inevitable, but it's selective, and in many cases it can be modifiable. There's also a loss of volume in the brain, but that's not due to a loss of neurons per se. So you're not losing, your neurons in your brain. What people are losing is the number of synapses in their brain, which is those connections between neurons, because going back to, I'm sure you've heard in the physical exercise realm, if you don't use it, you lose it. The same goes for our brains. And so today we're going to talk about the importance of really using our brains in cognitively complex ways to help maintain high brain volume and not decrease loss there. And then also what we know about aging, there are many complex lifestyle factors interact to modulate cognitive aging, and new neurons can be created. It's a term called neurogenesis at any age. So before we dive too far into this, a quick neuroanatomy overview. So this is what your brain looks like in a nutshell. This is just one side of the brain. Of course, these lobes are on both sides of the brain. The frontal lobe is often what's indicated in dementias and Alzheimer's disease. And so it's a large topic of interest in aging research. But it's responsible for thinking, memory, behavior, and movement. The parietal lobe, which you see in blue, is responsible for processing sensory information and attention and essentially representing space around us. It also helps us to interpret language and to interpret touch and different sensory sensations. The occipital lobe at the back of our brain is primarily responsible for vision and visual perception. The temporal lobe is responsible for processing auditory signals, and it's also important in aspects of learning and memory. So we will talk a lot today about both the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe and how those are largely affected with aging. And then finally, you see the brainstem, which is these unconscious processes of breathing, heart rate, and temperature. And then the cerebellum, which actually contains 80% of our neurons, which is pretty impressive. So the cerebellum, even though the cortex, the cerebrum, which is the large part of the brain, is much larger, you actually have a very highly condensed number of neurons in your cerebellum, which focus on balance and coordination. And so I wanted to highlight an area that's particularly of interest with this population, and that is the prefrontal cortex. And what the prefrontal cortex is responsible for is complex cognitive processing, social behavior, and personality expression. And so this is going to be responsible for things like planning, organizing, decision-making, problem-solving, task management, working towards a goal, all of those things that require a lot of complex cognitive reasoning skills. And the reason that I bring this up is that oftentimes, unfortunately, with several types of dementia, this is often one of the first areas to be affected negatively. And so we really want to focus on activities that enhance performance in this area. You can see the red lines going to all different areas of the brain. That's to indicate that it's really kind of the hub that sends and receives information from all different parts of the brain, including the hippocampus, which is where we store and form our memories. And so I briefly wanted to touch on the hippocampus as well. The hippocampus is located in the temporal lobe. So thinking back to that picture that I just showed you, it's that bottom portion of the brain. And it's best known for its role in memory. And it's part of a larger structure called the hippocampal formation. And so a lot of the research, if you ever, beyond this talk, if you were interested in looking into research on memory, you may see a lot of the research talking about something called the dentate gyrus. And the dentate gyrus is just a part of that hippocampal formation that helps us to form new memories. And so we'll talk a little bit about that briefly as well. Unfortunately, with pathologic aging, we do see a decline in the volume of the hippocampus and our ability to store new memories in the hippocampus. And so that's why this area is a large target for aging research and dementia research. So, aging and cognitive decline, is it inevitable? While it is true that cognitive performance declines slowly on average as people age, there is significant variability amongst older adults. So if you think about it as a trending line downward, trending lines have to have dots above them and dots below them. And so my goal for all of you is to get you to be the people that are the dots above that trending line. There's nothing that says that as you age, you have to have decreased cognitive performance. There's so many different factors that influence it. And so while it is true that some areas will likely decline, and that's a normal process or part of aging, it's not necessarily inevitable to have significant cognitive decline. Genes do play a large role in how well we age. However, recent studies have actually shown that genetics can only really play a role in about 30 to 40% of our lifestyle. So if you think about that, that leaves about 70% up to us and the factors that we can control. And so we're going to talk about those things today. Cognitive changes that are associated with normal aging: decreased motor reaction time. This is something that almost every individual will face at some point as they age. Doesn't necessarily mean that it correlates to functional impairment though. And what I mean by that is people see this and they panic and think, oh, does that mean I'm not going to be able to drive or be safe to drive? And no, that's not necessarily what it means. It just means that you need to be aware that as you age, it's perfectly normal to have a slightly decreased reaction time, but just being aware of it and monitoring it is incredibly important. And then the other area that is likely to change associated with normal aging is decreased arbitrary memory associations. So being able to remember new names and faces. New information is the key here. Additionally, I'm sure we've all been there when we've lost our keys or we can't remember where we parked our car. Those are all normal. I have heard older adults say, I feel like it's happening more often, and that may be true. And that's even a normal part of aging. I'm sorry, my email is freaking out. Just one second. Don't want it to keep bugging you guys. Okay. So, sorry about that. So, what I was saying is it's only pathologic if it gets to the point where you lose your car keys and it takes you 4 hours to find them, or you go into a room to get something and you forget what you went in there for, and that happens, but then you go back to what you were doing and you remember. That's totally normal. When it becomes pathologic and abnormal and something maybe to look into further is when you really that symptom persists and you never really figure out what you were thinking of, or you take 3 hours to find your car, those kinds of things. But rest assured that we all have experiences like this. They may increase slightly with aging, but that itself is normal. So in addition to genetics, let's look at some other factors that influence age. We've got lifestyle, which we're going to talk about today, hormones. You've got vascular risk, and what this means is individuals with hypertension or high cholesterol, those make you more susceptible to pathological aging. So making sure that you control those comorbid conditions is especially important. Genetics, as I mentioned. Epigenetics, which is a whole new field, and I love this topic, but we don't have a ton of time to go into it today. But if you are interested in epigenetics, I encourage you to look into a man named Dr. David Sinclair, who's really kind of at the front of this line of research. And epigenetics, in a nutshell, is essentially, how do we control which genetics we're turning on and off and which neural pathways are turning on and off. And that's a very elementary way to say this, and I'm sure that my geneticist friends would cringe, but that's the best way that I can think about it. It's learning to alter those things that in the past may have been inevitable, but we're learning now that there actually are ways to control certain aspects of our genetics, and I encourage you to look into that if you're interested. Sleep plays a huge role in aging. I know that as older adults generally tend to think that they don't need as much sleep as younger adults, but that's not true. Older adults still need about 8 hours of sleep to maximize their cognitive performance on average. And less sleep and decreased REM sleep is actually associated with increased risk of dementia and other pathologies. So making sure that you get good sleep is really important. And then finally, neuroinflammation and protein aggregation. And so we're going to talk a bit about neuroinflammation, and protein aggregation is really, when we think about like Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, those types of dementia, they have a lot to do with this concept of protein aggregation and these protein and plaques building up on the brain. And what we want to do is we want to prevent that from happening. So, for decades, it was thought, as I mentioned, that cognitive decline was a normal part of aging, and there was nothing we could really do to stop it. And so I like the analogy thinking of a fuel tank, similar to the fuel tank. As the miles on your body progress, the fuel tank would deplete. But that simply is not true, which is exciting. Like I said, there are some things that are going to change, but functionally, There is no reason that you can't stay cognitively engaged and interacting for years and years and years to come through the aging process. So like I said, there's promising evidence that some cognitive changes are normal, but there's a lot we can do to maintain and sharpen our brains well into old age. And so this is where neuroplasticity comes in. And neuroplasticity is what's going to help us keep that gas tank from depleting to empty. It's going to help us keep the tank full and storing new memories and ideas. So what is neuroplasticity? Well, it's the ability of the brain to change or rewire through a person's life. So the basis of learning and brain repair after injuries is neuroplasticity. So like I said earlier, I have experience working with individuals after neurological injury, but we can also use this process in healthy individuals to help promote healthy aging. So the brain consists of billions of neurons. The neurons communicate with each other through synapses, which is made possible by neurotransmitters. And again, in a 40-minute talk, really hard to cover this information. But you know, when we think about it, there's these two neurons or two synapses, and they communicate by dispensing neurotransmitters. Some examples you may have heard of: serotonin and dopamine. Those are just some examples of neurotransmitters. And synaptic connections in neurons can change over time. And this is the phenomenon called neuroplasticity. So frequently used synapses, where those synapses are firing together, are strengthened, while rarely used connections are weakened or eliminated. New activities create new connections. So I really want you to remember that last part. When we, you know, what I teach my students, synapses that fire together, wire together. When synapses are frequently used, they're strengthened, and then rarely used connections are weakened or eliminated. So more generally, neuroplasticity is the ability of neurons in the brain to change and reorganize continuously to meet the dynamic demands of the environment. And the brain continually reorganizes itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. In order to promote neuroplasticity, we need to continually engage in activities that cause our brain to rewire itself, or engage in activities that form these neuro pathways and create new connections. And so the idea is we want to go from this smaller pathway. As you can see, the yellow arrow here is smaller than the white arrow, and then it continually moves and grows and grows, and the more often we do something. So for example, if I were to start running every day and I decide to run a mile, at first this is going to be a pretty weak connection because my brain's like, wait, we haven't run in a long time. What is going on? So we're relearning this process, right? Over time, the goal would be, as I do that task more, you can see here in the picture on the left, that connection is actually going to become stronger and larger. And, you know, that's the power of neuroplasticity, really trying to create these pathways and create these synapses that over time just become natural and easier, and don't necessarily, you know, take a lot of learning or a lot of cognitive energy to figure out. And so that's what we're trying to do with neuroplasticity, is to rebuild these pathways. And so what are some factors that influence neuroplasticity? Age is definitely one of them. And you may be thinking, well, didn't you just say that, you know, age is just a number, and and we can still continue to develop new neurons and neuro pathways as we age? Yes, absolutely, we certainly can. But in adults with neurological injury, for example, it is harder to develop. It takes a little bit more time to develop new neurons, new neural pathways, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And so, you know, if you would have asked me the question 20 years ago, is neuroplasticity present in older adults, the answer probably would have been no, based on the science. But we now know that it doesn't matter how old you are, your brain is capable of neuroplasticity and rewiring and developing these new neurons, and that's really what we want to target. Other factors that influence neuroplasticity: aerobic exercise has a huge impact on neuroplasticity in a good way, in a positive way. So the more we exercise, the more we foster this ability to enhance neuroplasticity after neurological injury. And there are so many other factors that influence neuroplasticity. one of which being nutrition. That's a huge area that you will talk about briefly, or you will talk about in a session today. So I won't go into it in great depth, but just know that there is a huge correlation there as well. The good news is that our most valuable tools for healthy cognitive aging are those which are in our control. So like I mentioned earlier, genetics are an important part of cognitive aging, but they only make up about 30% of it. And so what we really are going to focus on are these areas, these lifestyle factors that are modifiable. And for the sake of time, we're going to focus in this talk largely on physical activity and cognitive stimulation. You'll get a bit more information on both of these areas throughout today's talks, and also you'll get some information on nutrition, healthy sleep routines, and social engagement as well. So physical activity. Why does physical activity matter as we begin aging? I'm sure that it's no surprise that physical activity is good. It's good for children, it's good for people in midlife, and it's good for older adults. And the reason that it's particularly important for older adults is that there is a large body of research that has emerged that shows that physical activity is a key indicator of improved cognitive function in adults. It's associated with lower risk of cognitive impairment and lower risk of dementia. And unfortunately, we don't have any medication or pharmacogenics that can prevent Alzheimer's or really even effectively treat Alzheimer's or dementia at this point. But what we do know is that physical activity is known to reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. So even in individuals who are predisposed maybe to Alzheimer's due to genetics, an increase in physical activity really can make a difference in whether or not you develop dementia later in life. We also know from the research that there are normal age-related declines in frontal, temporal, and parietal cortices, those cortexes we talked about earlier, but that the volume of those areas reducing is significantly reduced in adults who participated in aerobic exercise. And so what that means is people that participated in exercise actually, on imaging of the brain, actually have larger brain volumes in those areas, much less atrophy or decreased number of cells in those areas, which is really important, especially because, as we mentioned earlier, the frontal area, the temporal area, that's where we've got that prefrontal cortex, which houses those executive functions like planning, organization, and then the temporal region, which houses the hippocampus, which is important for memory. And so anything that we can do to really help increase the activity in those areas is incredibly important as we age. Physical activity leads to decreased gray matter volume loss associated with aging. And the brain maintains the ability to create new neurons throughout life in certain regions. And so what's interesting here is that a lot of the research that's recently come out on how we are able to create new neurons, which is a concept that wasn't even believed to be the case a couple of decades ago, is actually a lot of that is going to the dentate gyrus or the hippocampus. It's one of the most common areas for new neurons to be created, and that is very much facilitated by increased physical activity. And so anything we can do to help stimulate our memory formation center, that hippocampus, is really important. And so later today, you're going to get a talk from David and Jackie, who will talk about specific examples of some exercise and some movement that you can do. But I'm here to tell you the why it's important. Sometimes that's what I need to hear. Okay, I need to physically exercise, but why? And I think that this is some really outstanding evidence for why. We're realizing it's increasing volume, and it's also increasing our ability to create new neurons and enhance that neuroplasticity. So this is basically the point that I'm trying to make. Physical activity increases our ability to create new neurons, increases our ability to create new pathways, and it increases our ability to learn by stimulating neuron formation and increased pathways in the hippocampus. Complex tasks and environments enhance this process. And so there's a lot of research on what you will call enriched environments. And a lot of this is in rats and mice. And their enriched environments are largely include things for mice like you know, having very complex mazes that they need to go through, or they'll replace the toys and things that are in their cage, perhaps give them social interaction with other rats or mice. Those are all environmentally enriching, and enriched environments are have demonstrated significant improvement over, we'll call them boring environments, in rat and mice studies. So environments that lack that social stimulation, that maybe don't have any opportunities for new learning or physical activity, those are associated with significantly worse cognitive outcomes compared with these enriched environments for rats and mice. And so a lot of this has carried over into adult studies of humans and what we can do. What does enriching our environment look like in the human world, right? And so this is where we'll talk about that. So the other pillar that I wanted to just briefly touch on is cognitive stimulation. And why is cognitive stimulation important in healthy aging? There's a large body of evidence that suggests engagement in complex cognitive tasks across the lifespan conveys neuroprotective and neuroplastic benefits to aging. So this goes across the whole lifespan. So even if you engaged in cognitively demanding occupation, or maybe cognitively demanding leisure or social activities, individuals who do those things exhibit a reduced risk for cognitive decline with aging. And so if you did those things when you were younger and midlife, continue to do those things, because those are all associated with neuroprotective and neuroplastic effects. And this goes back to what's called the cognitive reserve hypothesis. And the cognitive reserve hypothesis is that individuals can mitigate or decrease the effects of brain pathology by deploying pre-existing processing approaches or alternative strategies. And what this means is individuals with a higher cognitive reserve often have higher educational levels, engaged in complex cognitive tasks throughout their lifespan. So maybe they were in high pressure jobs or jobs that required them to think of new solutions to new problems. And also these individuals are innately curious and always interested in learning. So if any of these things describe you, it is very likely that you have a high cognitive reserve, which is good, because individuals who have a higher cognitive reserve, they start out essentially with a fuller bucket, right? So if we're going to lose cognitive capacity as we age, or if we're susceptible to dementia or age-related illness, if we start out with a higher level of cognitive reserves, even as those deplete, we're more likely to not exhibit the functional effects. And so this chart really shows that individuals with higher cognitive reserve are less likely to demonstrate symptoms of dementia, even if physiologically perhaps they have dementia according to imaging or other things. They may be able to overcome that because of these cognitive reserves, which is really exciting. And so I briefly already touched on in stimulating and enriched environments. And like I said, these opportunities provide opportunities for these environments provide opportunities for new learning, physical activity, social interaction, and visual attention activities. And the same is likely required in human environments. And so as you think about what you can do to increase your cognitive interaction and cognitive engagement, I want you to think about your environment, the environment around you. What kinds of opportunities do you have currently for new learning? Have you tried to learn a new skill lately, or tried even a new recipe? What kind of physical activity are you getting? Maybe try a new physical activity that kind of forces you to try new techniques and movements. Making sure that you're getting plenty of social interaction. That's incredibly important for those neuroprotective and neurotrophic factors. And just have an environment around you that's engaging, really, and incorporates all of these different aspects. And this was a really interesting TED Talk, but I can't show the video, but they actually proved this whole concept of enriched environments by demonstrating that rats can actually learn how to drive in an enriched environment. And in our Q&A, I'll be sure to provide you with the link to a really great TED Talk on this idea that talks about the same principle may apply in human environments, where if we have enriched environments, we have the capacity at any age to develop new skills and really harness the power of neuroplasticity to build those new pathways and decrease cognitive aging. So like I said, choose cognitively complex tasks. So these may require multitasking or increased attention demands. So, maybe if you are cooking a recipe, try to have the TV on and see how well you do cooking a new recipe with something going on in the background. That's just one example. Or change your environment of where you work out or what you're doing with your workout. If you always do the same thing, see if you can try a new activity, because our goal is to enhance those pathways and increase your neuroplasticity, because that has significant neuroprotective measures. We want to increase our brain weight, which we do by we increase our brain weight to decrease our occurrence of dementia, and we do that by building these new neural pathways through neuroplasticity. Let's see here. So in summary, here are some recommendations. So incorporating regular aerobic exercise into your daily routine. Start with at least 20 to 30 minutes per session, at least 3 times a week. And that's really the bare minimum. And when I say aerobic exercise, I mean any exercise that gets your heart beat up. So, try new activities that get your heart rate up, those kinds of things. Those kinds of physical activities are what are really going to have that major neuroprotective measure for cognitive aging. Challenge your brain with cognitively complex tasks. Reading, puzzles, and games are important, and they are certainly probably contributing to your cognitive reserve. But go beyond this. Try to incorporate new tasks in your routine to facilitate new learning and build new neural pathways. Maybe you learn a new language, study a topic of interest. Neuroscience, perhaps? You could look into some new TED Talks on neuroscience and see what you can learn about the different factors that play into aging. Learn to play an instrument. Really, there's tons of opportunities. And then finally, I really encourage people, this is probably the occupational therapist in me, but use your hands. Use your hands as much as you can. Do full body activities as much as you can. Trying to engage the cerebellum, because there are 80% of your neurons in the cerebellum. I don't think that's an accident. There's so many connections there that we can really grab a hold of, and that we don't even know a whole lot about, that we can really foster. And then these are just some other important areas to consider: getting plenty of social interaction, focusing on your sleep hygiene, and a well-fueled body leads to a well-fueled brain. And finally, I will leave you with this. A recent study demonstrated that age truly is just a number, and how old you feel matters. They asked individuals, do you feel younger than your age, about your age, or older than your actual age? And the group that felt younger than their age, or the reported feeling younger than their age, truly demonstrated on neuroimaging that their brain volumes were greater and that they had less cognitive decline, just simply by feeling younger and reporting younger. So age is just a number. It's how you feel that matters. So incorporate exercise and healthy nutrition and cognitive tasks into your routine, and I have no doubt that you will continue to feel young for decades to come. So thank you, guys. I will pass it over to our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was great. If anybody has any questions and you want to type them in the Q&A box, and we can get those later. I don't want to delay our next speaker, but oh my gosh, great information. And that's always been mine. Age is just a number. So.
Yes, and now there's proof.
There is. So we appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions, pop them in there, or you can put them in the chat
Great.
box. So without further ado, I want to introduce our next speaker. Victoria is the Older Adult Program Coordinator for Centero. She's a degree in psychology and a master's degree in social work with a concentration in aging and health. So with that, I am going to make sure her video is on. And I will let you take it away, Victoria.
Good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Lauren. That was a wonderful amount of information on the brain. So let's turn our attention to talk about some emotions. And today I would like to go through and talk about emotional freedom tapping with everyone. It is an easy tool you can use at home, on the go, wherever you may be, to help with a variety of different things. It is used as a tool to help with anxiety, to help with apprehension, to help with experience of grief and loss, and also depression and frustration, anger. It can be used for a lot of different things. So as we turn our awareness to our emotions, let's just simply notice and observe them and how they are connected to what we experience in our body. For example, if you're feeling nervous, you might have butterflies, you might feel your heart pounding a little faster, you may feel the temperature rise in your body a little bit, your face might get hot. So our mind-body connection is very strong, but we can use that to our advantage and use that to help work with what we're experiencing. So when we first notice an emotion, we want to just notice it and really label it, name it. What is going on? What is it? And what is it telling us? For example, if we're feeling anxious, perhaps that means that we need to have reassurance about something, or maybe our safety is being threatened by something. If we're feeling sadness, maybe we are seeking out that we need some comfort. If we're feeling anger or frustration, maybe a boundary violation was done, or maybe we need to reassert a certain boundary. And then finally, what do we need to do with that emotion? So I'm going to show a wheel here just to kind of get us going. There are many different examples, of course, but this is just to get us started. So you might be feeling neutral. You might be feeling serene, optimistic, joyful. Maybe you're annoyed right now. Maybe we can change that. So we want to just notice where we're at on this screen. The mood elevator is another way to describe our emotions and where we're at. So at a neutral state, I like to be aware of myself as, okay, I'm currently curious and I'm interested in what's going on. If I start to head in another direction, all right, now I might be headed more towards feeling impatient or frustrated. You can also see, what can I do to maybe move myself up 1 or 2 ranks on this mood elevator? So emotional freedom tapping is one of my favorite tools that I like to use with clients, family, friends, and on myself. And let me tell you a little bit about the history of emotional freedom tapping and what it is, what it consists of. So it is evidence-based. Many studies have been done to confirm that it is not just magic. It actually does have scientific evidence on how it works. It can be called psychological acupressure. So we're not using needles, we're just using our own fingertips to tap gently on ourselves. So I'm going to show you, after I tell you a little bit more about it, I'm going to show you how to tap, the tapping points to use on yourself, and we're going to practice some sequences together. So you will be able to experience it today. We will do it together, and you can notice how you feel in regards to the process as we do it. Emotional freedom tapping, the big way in which it works is that the amygdala, it's actually a very small part of our brain, but it's a very powerful part of our brain because it is responsible for the fight or flight response. It fires off all those neurons and everything that we need to use in order to react to a stimulus in our environment. Some people actually have larger amygdalas than others, and that is associated with a higher frequency of anxiety throughout life. If a child experiences unusually more amount of stress than the average child, for example, they will sometimes have a larger amygdala. and may be more predisposed to experience post-traumatic stress disorder, for example. And as Lauren was describing how our neural networks work, what we think, in regards to cognitive behavioral therapy, what we think and our emotions and what we do as we fall into maybe particular habits or ways of thinking, that does create a stronger pathway. Much like taking the same way, if you're walking in the woods, if you take the same route in the woods each time, that path is going to become stronger and stronger. Things that strengthen the mind-body connection in that way that we might want to modify are if we're ruminating a lot on things that worry us, if we're catastrophizing situations, if we're being cynical, if we're being compulsive or anxious. These habits of thinking, they can become ingrained at the neural level, but the good thing is we can definitely dismantle that and make it into a healthier pattern for ourselves and turn it into something more positive that's going to help us accomplish our goals instead of basically hampering us from what we would like to do. So our habits of thinking and behavior relate to the pathway. So eventually, as we break that down from the familiar roots, the path can disappear. So with emotional freedom tapping, it involves us tapping on energy meridians in our body, and those correspond to points in our body that actually hold psychosomatic responses to our emotions and thoughts. For example, if you're feeling nervous about something, some of us might feel that tension in our stomach area or maybe our chest area. So it just depends on the person. So we want to be aware of what's going on in our body. So through that, we can do this. So let's get into it. Emotional freedom tapping, it was developed by Gary Craig in the 1990s. He had been looking at Roger Callahan's thought field therapy. And so he recognized the potential of this approach and again, did the evidence-based methodology. Tapping can be used, as I mentioned, for grief and loss. It can be used to boost self-esteem. If anyone experiences chronic pain, it's definitely a valuable tool for that. Depression and anxiety. It's very practical. We can apply this to past situations in our life, present and future. For example, medical students can use this tool before they take the MCAT to help bring down the anxiety and make them feel grounded for being prepared in the test. People can use this as they prepare for a job interview. Just normal things that we experience in our lives, frustrations. Okay, so I think we are ready to start. Let me actually show you the tapping points first before I start talking on this sequence. Here's our diagram. So we're going to start the sequence by tapping, it's called the karate chop point on the back of our hand. I'm tapping my left hand with my right hand, the back of it. And I will prompt you as I read the sequence. I will prompt you what the next point is, but I'm just going to get you familiar. We start with the side of the eyebrow. Just take your index finger and middle finger, 2 fingers, and tap gently on the side of your eyebrow. The next point is on the side of your eye. The next point is underneath your eye. The next point is underneath your nose. The next point is in the middle of your chin. The next point is on your collarbone. The next point is under your arm. And the final point is at the top of your head. All right, so I'm going to start doing a sequence here so we can practice some together. And I'm going to actually start with a sequence about COVID. That's pretty practical to this, what's going on in the world right now. So again, the tapping points. I'm going to start the opening statement with the karate chop. This is called the karate chop. And I'm going to be saying phrases, and feel free to repeat after me. This is the next point, side of my eyebrow. The next point is the side of my eye. The next point is under my eye. The next point is under your nose. And see, I'm using 2 fingers to tap on myself. Next point is in the middle of my chin. The next point is on my collarbone. Under your arm. At the top of your head. Okay, so I'm now going to start the sequence. Even though I'm feeling all this stress and anxiety, I choose to relax and breathe now. I'm allowing all these emotions to come forward, and I acknowledge that I feel anxious of the uncertain. We acknowledge this in order to move forward to positive emotions. In this moment, I choose to relax and feel safe. Even though part of me is overwhelmed, I choose to relax and feel safe now. Starting to feel safe in my body. Maybe it has felt like you haven't taken a full breath in a while. Let's take a breath together now. Let it go and release the anxiety. Feeling safer in your body now. Letting go of the pent-up stress and anxiety. Finding a place of peace. It is okay to feel afraid and be anxious sometimes. And it is okay to let go. We are actually boosting our immune systems when we feel safe. This is your opportunity to not go into fear. Take this moment to connect to emotions of healing, love, and hope. Let's imagine together now the emotion of hope, and let's bring peace to those in need. Connect to the feeling in your heart and envision healing. As we release the stress and anxiety and imagine a hopeful future by breathing easily and fully and letting go of the stress. Thinking of those who are sick right now, send them healing energy and thoughts. Feeling safe, strong, and confident in your body. Letting go, feeling safe, strong, and grounded. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Tune in and notice how you feel right now in your mind and body. Let's try another one. Let's do one on grief. So I want to say that, you know, it is a human experience for sure for us to experience loved ones, family, friends, partners, spouses, loved ones, pets that have died in our lives. And grief and loss is like I said, definitely a human experience. And I extend my empathies out to folks that are currently grieving right now. So I'm going to do a sequence with you guys about grief. Even though it feels as if my heart broke when he or she died, I accept who I am and how my body is responding to that. Even though I am so sad and heartbroken, I accept who I am and how I feel. I hate this heartbreaking feeling. Even though my grief is showing up in my body, I choose to allow myself to cry instead. I'm going to give myself space to express my feelings. I'm going to express my loss and pain so my body does not have to. I'm going to express my hurt and loneliness. I'm going to give myself permission to cry. I'm going to give myself permission to laugh and be joyful again too. I give myself permission to have all of my feelings. I'm allowed to have all of these feelings every day. This is the process that I'm going through. Even though I don't know what to do next, I'm going to take it one day at a time. I will figure it out as I go, as I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel some despair right now, I deeply and completely accept myself, even with this feeling. This feeling is allowed. I acknowledge this feeling, and it is real for me, and I'm going to be okay. Take a deep breath and release it, and notice how you feel. I'm going to try, I think, one more sequence. I really like this tool, as you could probably tell. I'm going to do another one on anxiety. Even though I am feeling anxious, I honor how I feel, and I give my body permission for it to relax. Even though I feel this anxiety in my body, I honor how I feel. I am more open to ease. Even though I feel this tension in my body, I accept how I feel, and I relax more with every tap. All of this anxiety, I notice how it feels in my body. I notice the weight of this emotion, and I'm feeling it right now in my stomach. It is hard for me to relax. With everything going on in the world and in my own life, this is a lot for me to handle, and I'm feeling it in my body. I'm feeling present right now, safe and grounded. What is this anxiety really about? What is it related to? I choose to be present in this moment right now, and I begin to recognize and release the anxiety. What is causing the anxiety? I'm going to notice any thoughts or feelings that come up. I'm going to trust what comes up. I'm going to imagine how I would approach this without anxiety. How would I breathe? How would I feel it in my body? It is safe to release this anxiety. Right now and right here. I am safe. I don't need to have all the answers right now. Even before anything changes, I can begin to relax. I can't stress myself to a solution. I choose peace instead. I am open to inspiration. I don't need to force myself to relax. I simply allow it to happen. Relaxation is my natural state, and I choose to release some of this tension in my body, and it is safe to relax. I am present in this moment as I allow the rest of my body to relax. Deep breath in and out. So just in these few minutes as we've done a couple sequences together, you've already brought down your nervous system a little bit, and you've taken a little bit of that fire out of the amygdala. So by removing that apprehension, for example, that you might have, it allows your brain, your thoughts and your emotions to be more open to opportunities that you can do that will allow you to work towards your goals and to help you feel more comfortable. So just, you know, in this world, we're just so much more faster paced than it was. And there's a lot going on. And, you know, we have our smartphones, which definitely, and our devices, which thank goodness we're using those right now to communicate and have this wonderful talk this morning. Sometimes they can be a little bit overwhelming. So it's nice to use them as a tool to help us. But it can definitely just raise anxiety levels in folks because with everything happening so quickly, it can cause people to be impatient and anxious. So I really enjoy emotional freedom tapping. Let me see if I wanted to show you. Oh yeah, let's talk just a little bit about sleep hygiene. I know Lauren was talking about it, and it's such an important aspect of your well-being, which it can, if you're having depression, anxiety, it'll definitely be affected. If you're having issues falling asleep, insomnia, or waking up throughout the night, we want to associate your bed for sleeping. So if you're trying to fall asleep, if you go to bed, because you want to go to sleep, but you're not falling asleep and you're starting to get frustrated by that, we don't want to, it's best recommended to basically switch up your environment. Get out of bed, go into another room, maybe read a book if you can do that, listen to some music, whatever you'd like to do that's kind of a chill activity. And then when you get sleepy, go back into your bed again, because if you're getting frustrated, if you're like lying there awake in your bed and getting frustrated, you're not going to sleep, your mind will start to associate that with your bed. So as we know, it's good to go to sleep and wake up at the same time, have that circadian rhythm. I think the average circadian rhythm for a human on the planet is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. But whatever works for you and your routine is what you want to do. Napping, it's just good to be careful with that because it can take away the strength of the sleep at night. But again, some people are expert power nappers, 10 to 30 minutes a day won't disrupt their sleep at night. That's cool. And then of course, avoiding caffeine before bed. And rituals can help you too. It'll cue your body that now is the time for sleep. I know one of the things I like to do, I like to stretch and read before I go to sleep. And I really like the smell of lavender. I just like to smell that. And I'll admit, I like to drink some mint tea too. I really like herbal tea that doesn't have any caffeine into it. But whatever you enjoy doing, it'll help cue your mind and body into the fact that it's actually going to be bedtime for me here pretty soon. And then it'll get that mode going for you. So I wanted to see if anybody had any questions or anything they'd like to talk about the emotional freedom tapping.
Hi, Victoria, this is Lori. I had a question myself. So I know you deal with older adults in many of our communities here in Central Ohio. So tell me, now that, COVID is longer than we expected, are you seeing changes in in the emotions of older adults? Are they coping better, or is this long prolonged state being harder on them?
It's a really excellent question. There's mixed results that I've noticed anecdotally and across the team. Our clients, the folks that we know that are typically very actively involved with, senior centers and going out and about a lot, have had to make an adjustment and had maybe some mild depression, anxiety symptoms that we've been able to do. For example, I'll do like a video chat with clients and do techniques such as this. On the flip side, there are some clients and folks that I know that have had chronic major depression in their life, and they're actually feeling better now than they were before. So it's been a mixed bag of responses. The level of uncertainty with the pandemic is definitely triggering a trauma response in everyone, but just stronger in some people than others, depending on their childhood experiences and life experiences.
Great, thank you. We don't have any other questions at this time. So if anybody who's attending wants to type some in, Victoria, are you able to stick around till after the last speaker so that you can answer things?
Here.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria.
I will just give another shout out to all of our sponsors, and they are Home Care Assistance, Senior Servicing Company, Ganshorn Suites, Northwest Eye Care, Elder Life Solutions, Ohio Living, McIntosh Company, Mayfair Village, Centero, Arlington Court, Danbury, and the Forum at Knightsbridge. And a little about, this is the commercial break, a little about The commission, we have been around for 30 plus years, and we offer different programming, one of them, which is this education symposium, but we are funded in part by the city of Upper Arlington and also Franklin County Senior Options. So shout out to them for their continued support. We do have a couple of Medicare webinars upcoming, and they will be posted on our website. The one coming up next week is the 15th from 6:30 to 8, Zoom, new to Medicare, the fine print. And that will be presented by Marcia Strahl from Elder Life Solutions and Emily Clugston from Senior Servicing Company, both experts in the field of Medicare. We also have different products and services, so I invite you to check out our website at uacoa.com. We will have a copy of this presentation on the website and other things. So,
Jennifer, we're getting close to starting at 10:15 again. It's been really good, hasn't it?
yes, it has. So thank you again to Victoria. Again, she's the older adult program coordinator for Centero. But at this time, I would like to introduce Jackie Russell, who is a co-founder of Total Health Works. It's an evidence-based virtual fitness platform created by the founders of Delay the Disease, the #1 Parkinson's group exercise program in the country. So with that being said, I'm going to turn the program over to Jackie Russell.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Great.
But now we need to just start our video.
One down, one to go.
Yes, and David Zid, I'm sorry, I didn't see you on the call. So it's David Zid and Jackie Russell, who are both co-founders.
Here we go.
My apology for leaving you out, David.
Oh, that's okay. I'm easy to miss.
No, you're not.
Just us little guys get lost in the mix there.
We are going to get started. Do you care if we just roll on into this?
Just roll on in. The floor.
So I'm Jackie Russell, and this
I'm David Zid.
is David Zid. And you know what? We are here to completely support everything that's been set up to this point.
Yeah, it's been a really great seminar so far.
Oh my gosh.
Lots of great information. Maybe we can put it into action, Jackie.
Maybe we can.
Well, let's do that.
So, you know, I heard great stories about neuroplasticity. We talk about that all the time. Exercise just enhances neuroplasticity. But the biggest question out there is, what's the best exercise to do? If you want your brain to be healthy, your memory to be better, your cognition to be sharper.
Well, Jackie, I think we've got an answer for everyone.
We do have an answer.
Let's give them a taste of what we do every single day.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. So we'd like you to join us. I'm going to show a seated option.
Yep, and I'll show you a little bit more aggressive option.
Yeah, so this is what we do.
This is what we're going to do.
This is Total Health
Now,
Works.
we want to give you a taste of everything that we do. We train lots of people with Parkinson's disease, lots of people with Alzheimer's, and lots of people with that just foggy brain.
Aging
and
brain.
you know what I'm talking about. You're sitting there going, yeah, that's me. Okay, raise your hand.
Hold on
right?
a minute.
All right, so we're going to start the day. I'm going to ask you to remember 4 things, all right? And they all related to Upper Arlington.
5 things.
Because we've got UA, right? UA is a great place.
UA is
My
wonderful.
kids all are going to UA. So here's the 4 things I want you to remember. Black, gold.
Gold.
UA colors, right? Black and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy to remember.
Okay.
We also have a bear because they're the golden bears.
The
right?
Golden Bears.
And then golfer. And it's not because of Jack Nicklaus, Jackie.
Oh, come
it's
on now.
because my daughter is playing golf at UA High School right now. So that's why we're going to throw that in there.
All right.
So it's
I like
black,
that.
gold, bear, and golfer.
4 things. Somehow relate them.
We're going to put that in the front of your brain,
Yep.
and we'll come back to that.
We'll pull them out later.
The first thing we always do is what? We do a little bit of cardio.
Let's get warmed
So
up. Yeah.
here's some options for cardio. Jackie's going to do a seated version. I'll do a standing version. We're just going to walk in place for 30 seconds.
We're just
All right.
shaking the rust off.
Shaking the rust off.
Yeah. The COVID rust of sitting too much.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't like it.
COVID rust, you know, I think my car has a little bit of that on there too. So we're at 30 seconds of just walking. This is about a 50% effort. So if I wanted to just go for a walk in my house, I'm there.
Hey, get me some coffee while you're out.
Got it. Starbucks on the way.
If you're in a chair, follow along with me or do whatever you want. 50% effort is about something you could do all day long. 5 out of 10 effort. It's simply starting to elevate your heart rate. You know, we want to get there.
And that's your time. That's 30 seconds.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're doing a 1-to-1 ratio. We're working for 1, we're resting for 1. So we're going to work for 30, rest for 30. It's a very classic interval. And interval's been around for 2,000 years.
Ever. So this is cardio intervals, guys. We want to get your heart rate up here.
All right, so I'm going to do something a little different.
Okay.
I'm just going to take a step side to side, Jackie. What are you going to do?
I'm actually going to go side to side in my chair.
Awesome, love it. Okay, so we're back up to that 30 seconds of activity.
Yep.
If you want to throw your arms in here, you
Sure
certainly
can.
Hey, it's really nice to see a lot of our friends on today.
Oh, there's a lot of familiar names on the screen today. Thanks for joining us, you guys. We love it.
Well, and we're hoping we meet new people today and maybe you start joining us because this is what we do, gang. And I'll tell you what, we get results.
We sure do.
And we have a little bit of fun too.
We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. So if
That's your 30.
Oh, that was too quick. That was just too
I
quick.
tell you, it goes fast, Jackie.
So Total Health Works, you guys, this is what we do, virtual fitness.
That's right. That's what Total Health Works is. You go to our website, totalhealthworks.com, and it's very simple.
Yep.
But we're here today to
do it.
motivate you
Oh, yeah.
to start doing something, whether it's with us or on your own. And let's give you some tools to do that.
Let's do that.
All right, we're gonna pick up the heat just a little bit. Let's turn up the heat in the
Okay.
kitchen. We're gonna go 30 seconds. I'm gonna jog in place.
I'm actually going to do some squats.
Okay, here we go. 30 seconds of whatever you want to do to get your heart rate up. If you're sitting in a chair, get those arms pumping, gang.
Yeah.
Get those arms pumping. You didn't think you were just gonna be sitting all day, did you?
There's some great lectures on today, but you know, we don't sit very well, do we?
No. We were actually going to jog over to the city and say hello and come back.
Come on, guys, move with us, get a little winded here. That's the magic.
And that's your 30.
Take a rest.
Okay, so we're building up a little bit. We've
Yeah.
got one more to go, one more little 30. And then we're going to talk about how this is affecting the brain, Jackie.
All right.
Great stuff. Okay.
So take a rest.
Woo!
Heart rate come down, grab a sip of water if you need it. Stay hydrated, be safe
You
during
know
this
what? I
workout.
just shook off the COVID rest.
It's gone. It's gone.
All right, so I think I'm going to do a little squat and maybe a shoulder press with no weight.
I'm going to punch.
Okay, here we go. Stay out of her way. She's punching. Here we
Yep.
go. 30 seconds. And we're just moving,
Yep.
moving.
You could be doing this in a chair.
Absolutely.
Totally
You can do
punch
lots
in
of
a chair.
things in a chair.
Oh, yeah. We could get your heart rate up in a chair.
Hey, here's the promise. Promise that will get you out of breath sitting in a chair at some point. Okay, maybe not today, but that's okay. Sometime in the near future, though.
There's probably people out there watching us going, those people are crazy. Join us, please. Join us.
Well, I can't argue with that one. But. And that's your time. Okay, so what are we aiming for here? That's a good question. It's just to be slightly out of breath.
Yep.
You don't have to be, hang on a sec, I can't talk to you. It's just difficult to say a sentence. That's a great place for the brain
Yep.
to become very active. And it's a sticky time for your brain to learn something or relearn something.
It's a perfect time to rewire your brain. Just like we heard at the very beginning of this seminar, neuroplasticity is much more active right after activity.
Absolutely, and we've seen that for what, the last 15 years, Jeff?
15 years we've been
Yeah,
doing this.
15 years. And we've been in front of lots and lots of people
Oh,
helping
yeah.
them, tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
All right, so we know that multitasking is really beneficial
We actually,
on so many things.
we heard that this
it does help multitasking.
Yes.
It helps your memory,
who doesn't
right?
want a better
and
memory?
it just gets you thinking better. So let's do a multitasking drill. This is one of our basic ones. We're gonna go pancake flips. We've got one palm up and one palm down, all right? So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna stand or sit,
Seated or
and we're gonna
standing.
flip at the same time. Now, just look at your hands. Make sure one is up and one is down. Don't just assume that. Okay, here we go. Flipping and flipping. Nice and slow. We're not in a hurry. Flip. That's gonna become important in a second.
This is deliberate
Flip.
movement, you guys.
Flip. One more time. Flip
Huh?
and back. All right. So you can say, you know what, Zitty? That's pretty simple. I mean, Jackie, come
Take it
on.
up a notch, would
Oh,
you?
let's do it. All
Take
right.
it
So
up a
let's
notch.
put some other things in here. We've got one up, one down. Make sure you look at your hand. One up, one down. Let's do some high knees. Okay, we haven't flipped yet.
No, we haven't. But
We've
we
got
are
high
getting ready
knees.
to.
And now we're gonna flip. Nice. And then we're gonna go high knees and flip again. See how slow and deliberate this is? Flipping, flipping. Okay, we've got about 10 more seconds. You go at your own pace. If you want to go faster, I'm going to go a little faster, Jackie. Nice. Make sure your knees are going up. Make sure you're flipping your hands.
Not so easy.
Not so easy anymore.
But somebody out there is saying, that's still pretty easy for me.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I was ready for this, okay?
Let's go.
I woke up this morning and said, these people are gonna be on and I've gotta be on too. So let's do this. Let's add one more thing to this drill, pancake flip drill. Let's count down by twos.
Count down by twos.
Count down by twos. We'll get you started. It doesn't matter where you are, I want you to do this out loud.
Where are we gonna start?
Well, that's a surprise.
Oh, you can't make it.
All right, I've got one up, one down. Make sure that's where you are. We're gonna start with some high knees.
Come on, join us.
Let's start flipping.
Here
We're
we
gonna
go.
flip a couple times before we start numbers. Here we go. 25, 23, 21, high knees. 19. Are you still pancake flipping? 17, 15, 13, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. I think I see
Wow.
smoke coming out of your ears right now.
I wish we could see all those videos of those 70 people that are on right now.
That's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we can increase that intensity if you need it. So that's a really nice basic drill. We've been teaching that for how long, Jackie?
Yeah, probably 15 years.
Yeah, probably 15 years.
But you know what, guys? Once you get good at it, you've got to add a layer of difficulty because
Absolutely.
then we're not helping your brain.
Keep pushing yourself.
It's very easy for you. Yeah, that's true.
That's great.
Research
And you know,
proves it.
the brain picks things up much faster and better after a little bout of cardio.
Oh, yes.
So we do, you know, we have a little plan here, Jackie.
You have a plan.
And I'm going to
for
share
it?
with everyone our top
Shocking.
secret stuff.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's state secret stuff, okay? We do cardio, and then we do a brain exercise like we just did the pancake flips, and then we do a core exercise. That is our formula for success, and we've seen it help tens of thousands of people all over the country and over the world.
Cardio, brain, core.
So we've got our cardio in. We did the brain.
Let's get some core work in.
We're going to do an isometric plank.
Oh, all
Okay?
right.
I know we've got some people out there who are like, you know what, Ziddy, this is just too easy.
Do it.
So I'm going to go to the floor to do my isometric
All
plank.
right. I'm going to plank off a chair.
Super.
I'm also going to give you an option if you're going to stay seated. If you're going to
I'll
stay
tell you what,
seated.
I'm going to do a chair plank. You do what you're going to do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, if you're going to be with Jackie, you're going to have a much harder time. You better go with me.
If you're seated and you're going to stay seated, I want you to scoot all the way out to the edge of your chair. Look at all the space between my back and the back of the chair. Then lean back, have your back touch the back of the chair. Bring two knees up
That's a tough one.
and two knees down.
What I'm going to do is just put my hands on a chair, and we're nice and straight. We're going to go for 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Are we ready?
Clock starts now. Here we go.
Go.
Woo! All right. You know what happens when you strengthen your core?
Everything.
You got it.
You can get
I
out
think
of
we've
the
been working
chair,
together too long.
out of a car.
Oh my gosh.
Out of
All
bed.
these things that are hard for
Oh my
you
gosh.
get easier. Getting off the floor, getting out of a car, getting out of bed,
It's independence.
standing up from a chair. How about just taking some nice steps?
How about are you watching the clock?
Oh, the clock. Let's get started again.
Oh, gosh.
That's 20 seconds into this, 10 to go.
Woo!
Yeah, we're starting to shake here.
It's a tough one.
We've got one set. That's all we're doing today. Here's 3, 2, 1, and come back up. Well done.
So
Oh.
that recipe, we discovered that recipe years ago, but guess what? The newest research, and I look at it every day because what's the best exercise for the brain, for Alzheimer's, for Parkinson's, for just an aging brain?
Sure.
It's not just cardio or just aerobic. That's the greatest part. But then if you add on, ice the cake with strength work, brain work.
You know, and we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
We were ahead of the curve.
I think we
And
were.
sometimes you're ahead of science, and that's where we've been for our whole career.
Speaking of brain, what
Oh.
were those
Oh,
four
interesting.
words?
What was it now? Related to UA.
Yeah,
Okay.
pull 'em out.
Upper Arlington.
Black.
Yep. Their
was
colors.
one. Black and gold. Those
Black
are going
and
to come
gold.
right out.
Yep.
Um,
And their mascot is.
a bear.
Yep. Golden Bear.
A golfer.
And Jack Nicklaus
Yeah.
or Charlotte Zid.
Or Charlotte Zinn. You could say Charlotte.
All right, so we've got black, gold, bear, and golfer. Did you get those? Don't worry if you didn't, okay?
Yeah.
Don't worry if you didn't. I mean, that's tough.
You guys, we're giving you practice for when you go into your physician and
Sure.
they go, hey, let's practice
Let's
some
give you a
memory.
little test. You're going to say, okay,
Oh, I
bring it
can
on.
get that.
Let me go do a little jumping jack before I get in
I
there.
can relate those words to something.
All
Yeah,
right, we are
absolutely.
going to do 2 rounds of everything today.
Okay.
So let's get back into cardio. I'm going to do a couple different things, Jackie.
Okay, I will too.
Okay. This is a shorter version. We're going to do 20 seconds on and then a 20-second break.
Okay.
All right. So our first 20-second is at a 60% effort. That's a little bit, that's a fast walk
Okay.
or maybe a slow jog. All right. All right. We're going to start in 10 seconds. So
I'm going to
get
stay
your,
seated. Get ready. What are you going to do? What are
take
you
your
gonna
protein
do?
pills and put your helmet on.
Tighten your ponytail, pull up your tights. Let's have at it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to just jump an imaginary jump rope for my first 20.
I'm just going to punch. No kicking, just punching, leaning side to side.
If you're jumping an imaginary jump rope, don't worry, you're never going to miss. We could do a jumping jack, just a
Oh.
lower body jumping jack. Nice.
Nice job, everybody.
And that's 20.
That's 20
That's
seconds.
why I love 20s, because they're so quick and short, but also the rest is.
The rest is
too.
quick and short
Yeah.
too. I'm going to change up what I do for my next 20 seconds.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
You know, I'm going to grab these bricks,
I'm actually going to add a weight to mine too.
because I don't need a formal dumbbell. I can just grab something out of the backyard.
This is going to
And-
be a jug of laundry detergent.
Here we go.
Here we
Clean and
go.
press.
A little chair jack going.
Absolutely
weight.
do. Yeah, sure. You do that for a little bit, you're going to get your
Yeah.
out of breath, that's for sure. I'll tell you, it's a great day to exercise.
Oh,
So glad you're with us today.
we are. We hope you
And
join us
that's your
another-
time.
Nice job. Are you a little breathless? You know, we don't measure heart rate here. We just go by rate of perceived exertion.
Sure.
We just want
A
you
little bit out of
little
breath.
winded. Yeah, a little
Yep,
bit
and it
winded.
doesn't matter how you do it. You could do step-ups on your stairs. You could do, we got some people to do burpees. I mean, lots of different ways to do it.
And it's safe, you guys. Even if you have something wrong with your heart or some blood pressure issues, diabetes is very safe.
Everybody has an 80% effort level.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how old you are
Nope.
or how long you've been fighting something, or if you haven't exercised since 1984, you have an 80%
That's a
max
long
heart rate,
time.
and we'll get you there.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, so I thought we'd show them one of our favorite exercises is driver lunge.
Okay,
So we can do this sitting or standing.
I'll be sitting.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an opposite arm, opposite leg, we're gonna take a step forward. So with my left arm, right leg, I just take a step and I put my arm over my head and then come back.
That
Jackie's doing it
opposite
in a
thing.
chair. Yep.
That opposite
The
thing's
opposite
hard.
thing's tough. All right.
Opposite.
Now we're gonna go right arm, left leg. Boom.
Yep.
Okay.
Think
and we just
about
keep
it.
going. Opposite arm, opposite leg. Don't be in a hurry. Relax your jaw and just take a breath. There we go. Opposite arm, opposite leg. From the side, it looks like this. I take a big step and raise my opposite arm. I'm looking up. Look where my chin is, gang.
Yep.
It's looking up and out.
A little bit of balance here, a little bit of posture here.
Sure it is.
And
All
a lot
kinds
of
of great
thinking,
stuff
a
going
lot
on
of
here.
thinking. Love this move.
One more each side. Nice big step. Raising the arm up over the head.
Nice.
All right, so let's turn up the heat just a little bit.
You're ready for it. You know it.
Okay, let's do this. Let's count every time our left foot goes forward.
Every time our left
So
foot
we're just
goes
going to
forward.
count by doubles, okay? And we'll make it easy. We'll go even numbers.
Okay. Twos.
So let me show you what I mean by that. So when my left foot goes forward, two.
Two.
Got to keep switching though. Right foot goes forward. We don't say a
Nothing
number.
happens there. Nothing
There you go.
happens.
Four.
Four.
Right foot mums the word.
Come on.
Six.
Six. Keep that number in your brain.
Okay, join with us. Here we
Here
go.
we go.
Nice and slow. Eight. Great.
Lovely.
10.
10.
Nice and slow. I could hang on, be close to a wall.
Yeah.
12. 14. Boy, things got quiet
There
and
we
warm in here, didn't
go.
they? One more time. 16.
16.
Super,
Nice.
super. That's called driver lunge. We've invented that a long time ago, and that's a multitask exercise. You know, think about the possibilities with that one. How many different ways could we change that?
Well,
Oh, it's endless.
it's endless, and it's really difficult thinking and then using opposite sides of your body. So it's a challenge. So if that was frustrating to you, don't worry about it.
Oh, no, because when was the last time you did that exercise?
Right.
Oh, never?
And if it was easy, count up by square roots.
Yeah, just all the prime numbers. And we probably have some folks on who could do that.
I know that.
You know, the neat thing about what we do is that we've seen people change so drastically in, you know, weeks and months. It doesn't take years, just weeks and months to change. And the way that we do things, the cardio, the brain, the core, you know, that systemness that we've invented, Jackie, and we've shared with, what, 6,000 instructors around the country?
You guys, a little bit about our history. We're the founders of Delay the Disease.
Delay the Disease.
Which is a Parkinson's wellness program.
That's right, that's right.
But thanks to the Alzheimer's Association, and you know who I'm talking to, we were able to gather people to target dementia, Alzheimer's, and the aging brain. And so we have experience in both venues.
It's been a lot of fun. We meet so many nice people,
my gosh.
and
And
it's been a lot of fun.
It works. We have supportive data that what we're doing is helping, memory's improving, Parkinson's symptoms are changing.
Attitude adjustments.
Attitude
You have
adjustments.
a better positive attitude the days you exercise. That's what we're hearing back from our folks. And their spouses are saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah. And getting together in a group is also part of the magic, and that's why we created in this COVID crisis.
Total Health Works.
Right, because it's gathering people on Zoom and you can see each other and you can chat before class. And
I want to teach them one more thing.
Oh,
you know,
come
I'm
on, let's go.
chomping at
One
the
more
bit,
thing.
Jackie,
One
and
more
then
thing.
I'll let you loose, okay? So, you know, it's interesting. This is how we're built, gang. Humans are built. If our first step is small, all your other steps tend to be small too. It's the first step that determines the other steps. So if my first step is big, then all my other steps tend to be big too. So we call this big first step, go figure, right? So this is what it looks like. We're standing, we're gonna relax your jaw and take a breath. We're gonna take a big first step and we start walking. And we walk for a few steps, and when we come to a stop, it's in a nice wide John Wayne stance, because John Wayne stance is a really safe place to be, isn't it? Okay, so let's repeat that. You ready? Come join me. We're standing, we're relaxing. My first step is big and I start walking. Here we go. Nice. It's not fast. We come to a stop in a John Wayne stance. So we're gonna take a big first step and then stop in a John Wayne stance. Here we go.
guys, if you're gonna stay seated and you just don't feel good about walking right now, here's what you're doing. Nice big high knees. The height of the knee is gonna help you walk. 10 of them, and then I want you to go wide.
Let's switch feet, your lead foot every once in a while. So if you always step with your right foot first, let's step left. If you always step with your left foot first, let's step right. Here we go. Let's do about 30 more seconds, gang. Isn't that interesting?
Stopping wide is such a fall preventer.
Jackie, I'll be right back around in a minute.
Come on back, we miss you. You guys, this is a drill to help prevent the COVID shuffle.
Absolutely.
Not going out a lot, not doing long distance walking. Get out and do some nice big steps for us and stop wide.
Great. I think we have time for a quick stretch.
Yeah. Let's
And
do it.
then one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah, we have just enough time for that.
Do we have just enough time?
We have just enough time for that.
Okay, so let's do one basic stretch that's going to help everybody out there. It's a hamstring stretch. You've seen this. Let's push the belly button towards the toe, and the toe comes towards the belly button. You know, so often people say, well, I've done this before. I've seen that before. I go, sure. When was the last time you did it?
Yeah.
And they go, So you can use us as motivation for you to exercise. See, and everybody needs a partner.
Oh, I know.
Let's switch
Partner
sides.
helps. And you know what? Sometimes you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting older, or I've got a new diagnosis, and you're kind of feeling hopeless. This brings hope to a hopeless diagnosis.
Sure,
Changes your attitude.
absolutely
Gives
does.
you something to do that will help you right now.
Hey,
right
this
now.
fight's aging.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we're experts in fighting aging.
Yes, we are.
Jack, you've got some things to tell everyone, don't you?
I do have
all the
some
science and medical stuff.
I
better get out of here.
No. We're here just to let you know that what we're doing research supports, and I'm going to tell you what, jump in there and do it with us. Just jump right in and do it with us, because sitting on your couch isn't helping you.
I'll tell you, what we've seen over the last 15 years is nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah.
We've seen people get rid of their wheelchairs, get rid of their walkers, get rid of their canes.
Right.
We have people go back to work after they've been retired because they're bored. You know, these are things that are real. These are real people.
Yeah.
And we have experience, and it's just been a lot of fun. I mean, it's why we get up on Monday mornings and we smile and we say it's time to go.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we're going to teach a class at noon, and this seminar ends at 11:30. So if you want to join us and jump on.
And our Wednesday class is always free.
Our Wednesday class is always free. It's called Brain and Body.
Brain and Body.
We'd love you to join us.
Please go to totalhealthworks.com. It's very easy to navigate through. You know, at the end of the day, exercise helps. And if you put your effort in just a little bit, will come back tenfold to you. And we've seen it enough times with just about everybody. And we also deal with bad joints, okay?
Yeah.
You've got a bad shoulder, bad hip, bad knee, these type of things. I mean, we understand that.
So we have some time for questions.
Oh, let's open up to some questions.
So
Sure.
I know all of our hosts said, hey, leave a few minutes for
I'm
questions.
gonna get a little closer then.
And so let's do that. Let's do that.
So David, this is Lori, and this is my own. This is not from the audience. I recognized a couple of years ago, and this is a weird thing. I'm one of those people who researches everything I think of, which takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
That's why we're friends. You know what I'm talking about.
But I was walking, and I thought, I feel like I'm walking differently now. So I actually looked up a video on YouTube on the right way to walk, and I actually found one. And I noticed that with all the older adults we work with, that people walk differently as they age. Is that inevitable, or what can we do to?
You know, it's not inevitable, Lori, but it's also very common at the same time. But you know, the way that we fix walking is we teach you high knees and butt kicks. It's just a very simple exercise, but it changes the way that you walk. And I always say, what do I say, Jackie? If you do this for 30 seconds to 60 seconds every day, in 30 days, your gait will be improved.
It's a matter of practicing something that has been creeping up on you for a long time. So you started to walk with smaller steps and you started to shuffle probably a good number of years ago, and that has become normal for you. Well, so you kind of have to break out of that.
Aging lasts a long time.
Yes, it does, sadly.
See, and I'm being funny at the same time I'm being serious, is that, you know, anything that you start experiencing has probably been with you for a long time. Yeah. Parkinson's disease, you've had it for 20 or 30 or 40 years before you even diagnosed.
Same with the
Same
dementias.
with Alzheimer's, you know.
The brain changes start early.
So how many bad habits can you get in, let's just say 20 years? I mean, it's a lot. And so what we're really in the business of breaking bad habits. And the best time to break a bad habit is after you've exercised.
After your cardio.
So, yeah, so walking well is actually a pretty easy fix, but you have to practice it.
Well, yes. So can you show me what it looks like?
You want to see it?
Because,
sure. You want a little more activity?
I also notice we all tend to our heads get really heavy, right? We all start to lean forward, and that changes the way
that big first step can help fix things immediately. The big first step, we use that all the time. But high knees and butt kicks are this. It's just a high knee drill. So come on up and start joining me again. We can just do maybe 30 seconds of high knees. It's better when we move, but we also have some folks who actually grab onto a chair and we stay in one spot. But if it's a high knee drill, we don't want this. I didn't show you this. It's this, high knees, okay? High knees, basically your brain just picks it up and says, yes, we've got to start picking up our feet better. Okay, butt kicks. Butt kicks are just trying to put your heel to your butt. And again, it's better actually if we move, but we can also stay in one spot.
Or hold on to a chair.
So the nice thing about high knees and butt kicks, 30 to 60 seconds each every day for the next 30 days can actually change your habit of walking. So this isn't anything you have to go out and say, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, so I've got to do some high knees and butt kicks. That's not what I'm talking about. It changes the way that you walk automatically. See, that's the magic, is because if I said, hey, you just have to think about this every step of your day, you go, I can't do that.
Impossible.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
So we change habits.
Yeah.
See, that's what we're good at. So great question. I love the question.
You know, we are so appreciative that you invited us here today. We love talking to people. We love exercising with people.
Hey, we love UA.
We love UA. Yeah,
I've had 2 kids go through A, and they are out of the house, which is a good thing.
Yeah, we have a minute. What are the 4 words? Let's see it.
Oh,
Come on,
okay.
you guys.
What are the 4 words?
Pull them out. Pull them out. Bear.
Yep.
Golfer.
You got it?
Oh, gold and black.
There you go.
All right. Did
Black
you
and
guys pull
gold.
that out? There you go.
Did you get them all?
Thank you so very, very much. That was great. I always have great takeaways from seeing your presentations.
Well, thank you so much for
Thanks,
having us. It has
Jennifer.
been really fun,
We really
and we hope we
appreciate
see you down the road.
Yeah.
Yes, you will. You will. Thank you so much. And without much further ado, our final speaker today is Diane Casey. She's
Hi, guys.
a dietitian. Her undergraduate degree is in nutrition from the University of Akron, and her master's degree is from The Ohio State University. She's passionate about teaching everyone about how to eat whole food, real food, so that disease is reversed and health is restored. So without any further delay, I'm going to turn the floor over to Diane. Welcome, Diane.
Hi there.
Hi,
Can
Diane.
you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
Super. Okay. So, wow, this has been so fun to listen to everybody. I just love everything. And what I'm going to talk about is going to really tie in with what everyone has spoken. So today I want to talk about nutrition and immunity. And when I talk about nutrition, I mean what we're choosing to eat, but really more importantly, what we're actually absorbing, because absorption can be different as we age. Nutrition has a significant impact on our immune system and how our brains work. That means that we can do something about how well our brain and immune systems operate by our daily choices. And in a world that can feel so out of control right now, in this area, we do have a lot of control, and that's great news, isn't it? So I want to start with talking about a few of the factors that can depress our immune system. And as we age, you know, the factor of age, our internal organs can become a little bit less efficient as we age. Immune-related organs like the thymus or our bone marrow, they actually produce less immune cells needed to fight off infection. Aging is also associated with micronutrient deficiencies. And when I say micronutrient, I mean those things that are needed in small amounts like vitamins and minerals. These things can actually worsen an already declining immune system, so nutrition becomes very important. Environmental toxins like smoking and excess alcohol consumption can also affect both the immunity and our brain health, as does excess weight. Obesity is actually associated with low-grade chronic inflammation. The fat tissue that we carry on our bodies, which we think is just inert tissue, actually produces something called cytokines that can promote the inflammatory process. Obesity is now considered an independent risk factor for the influenza virus, possibly due to its effect on a type of white cell called T cells. An imbalanced diet is also affecting our immune system. An eating pattern that lacks one or more nutrients, like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals, can alter the production and activity of immune cells. Chronic mental stress. Stress hormones like cortisol can affect the action of white blood cells. Victoria gave us wonderful tools to handle stress with the breathing and the tapping. That was really, I love that. Lack of sleep and rest is also another factor that can depress our immune systems. And when you think about it, we all know this, but sleep is a time of restoration for the body. And during sleep, a type of cytokine is released that actually fights infection. So too little sleep negatively affects these cytokines and other immune cells. So does an immune boosting diet exist? The data says that it does, and I believe it does as well. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Eating enough nutrients as part of a varied diet is needed for the health and function of all the cells, including our immune and our brain cells. We know that certain patterns of eating may prepare the body for microbe attacks and excess inflammation, but it's unlikely that individual foods offer special protection. Here's something really important. Be wary of ads claiming a superfood status. It's likely that it's an overpriced supplement that could have possibly affect your health in a negative sort of way. Supplements can actually have drug-like effects in our body if they're taken in amounts that we don't necessarily need. So the adage comes back to always choose whole, real foods, minimally processed, for the best and most readily available form of nutrients. Choose foods in the form that they come out of the ground, like a potato, or off of a tree like an apple, or a blueberry off of a bush. These have the highest nutrition of all foods. Another tip when grocery shopping is stay on the outside aisle of the grocery store and choose foods there. You know that as we go in toward the center aisles, that's where you're going to get more processed foods, which actually have nutrients taken out of them through the processing. Each stage of the body's immune response relies on many micronutrients. Examples that have been identified as critical for the growth and function of our immune cells include vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, selenium, iron, protein, and others. They are found in a wide variety of both plant and animal foods. Diets that are limited in variety, and we all do this, we tend to eat the same foods over and over, which limits our variety, and then lower in nutrients, like diets consisting of maybe ultra-processed foods, they can actually negatively affect the immune system by not giving us enough of the proper nutrition. It's also thought that the typical Western diet, which is what we eat here in the US, it's high in refined sugars, it's high in meat and cheese and dairy, and it tends to be low in fruits and vegetables. This type of diet can alter the health of our intestinal microbes, which results in chronic inflammation of the gut. This then affects our immune system and our brain. The microbiome is composed of trillions of microbes, 3 pounds in your intestine. It's an area of intense and active research, and it's so important to our overall health. We're discovering that the microbiome plays a key role in immune function, brain function, and overall health. The gut, meaning the stomach and intestines, is a major site of immune activity and the production of antimicrobial proteins that help us fight infection. Diet plays a large role in determining what kinds of microbes live in our intestines. A high fiber diet, which includes lots of plants. Remember, fiber only comes from plants. It's not found in dairy or meat. So a high fiber diet would include fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes. That appears to support the growth and maintenance of the beneficial or good microbes. Certain helpful microbes break down fibers in foods into short-chain fatty acids, which have been shown to stimulate immune cell activity. You might have heard or read something about the short-chain fatty acid butyrate. Very, very important, and it comes from the breakdown product of fiber. These fibers are sometimes called prebiotics because they feed microbes. Examples of prebiotic fibers include garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, a certain type of artichoke called a Jerusalem artichoke, dandelion greens, bananas, and seaweed, which tends to be an Asian food, popular in Asia. A more general guide to follow would be to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, beans, and whole grains for good dietary sources of prebiotic fibers. Now there's another category called probiotics. These types of foods are also helpful. They contain live cultures of bacteria and are found in foods like kefir, which is a fermented drink. Not sure if you've ever tried that. Yogurt with live active cultures are popular nowadays. Fermented vegetables, sauerkraut, tempeh, which is made from fermented soybeans, kombucha tea, which is a fermented drink, and miso, which is a Japanese seasoning made from fermented soybeans. So a deficiency of certain single nutrients can alter the body's immune response. Animal studies have found that deficiencies of zinc, selenium, iron, copper, and folic acid, and then vitamins A, B6, C, D, and E can alter our immune responses. And this is very important now during this time of COVID-19. I'm going to tell you what foods contain these nutrients in just a minute. These nutrients help the immune system in several ways. First of all, they work as an antioxidant to protect healthy cells. Second, they support the growth and activity of immune cells. And then third, they help the body produce antibodies, which attack foreign substances. Studies show that those who are less well-nourished are at greater risk for bacterial, viral, and other infections. Poor nutrition can come from a limited food selection, where we choose the same few foods as opposed to a variety of foods with lots of different colors. It's important to choose foods that have a variety of colors. All of these colors provide antioxidants and phytochemicals that fight disease in our body. For example, choose red, orange, and green peppers, berries of many colors like raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries. And always choose orange vegetables and those of varied colors to make sure that you're meeting your body's nutritional needs. Fresh or frozen are best. Eating a varied, high-quality diet can prevent deficiencies of these key nutrients. And when I say good quality diet, I mean those foods that are loaded with nutrients like real whole foods rather than processed snacks and prepared meal options. If for some reason you're unable to access a variety of fresh and frozen foods, a vitamin or mineral supplement may be needed, especially if your physician has run tests and has identified a deficiency. Be careful taking supplements, though, as many have drug-like effects when taken in large doses. It's best to get your micronutrients measured and then supplement if you have a deficiency. I work with a lab called SpectraCell to do micronutrient testing, and often we will see these deficiencies and then build a plan to replace them in your body and build health. Now let's talk about where you can find these key nutrients in real whole foods. That's always the best choice, as these foods contain other key components like fiber. Fiber is so important to your health. If you have a GI disturbance, it's likely that you're eating too little fiber, which is only found in plants, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains, and cereals. You're going to keep hearing that over and over. That's a pattern that's very, very healthy. Our diet in the US, as I mentioned before, is heavy on meat, dairy, and processed foods, and tends to be very, very low in fiber, which is why there's so much reflux and constipation and other GI problems. It actually takes a conscious effort to get enough fiber in our diets daily to support overall gut and health. Let's talk about zinc, which is the first nutrient. Zinc appears to slow down the immune system's response and control inflammation in our bodies. Zinc is found in many, many foods: beans, chickpeas, or garbanzo beans, you might know them by, lentils, tofu, walnuts, cashews, chia seeds, hemp and pumpkin seeds. Wholemeal bread and quinoa are great plant sources. Animal sources of the mineral zinc include red meat, shellfish, dairy, and eggs. But be careful here, these foods are also high in cholesterol and saturated fat and are not healthy for our hearts and brains in excess. If you choose animal sources of these nutrients, eat portions of 2 to 3 ounces per day and load up on low-fat, high-fiber plant sources of these key nutrients. Your brain will be thankful for that choice as well. Selenium is the next mineral that can affect the immune system if foods are not consumed that are high in this nutrient. Selenium seems to have a powerful effect on the immune system, including the potential to slow the body's overactive responses to certain aggressive forms of cancer. You can find it your daily requirement in as little as 2 Brazil nuts, enriched foods and cereals, baked beans, mushrooms, oatmeal, lentils, cashew, bananas, garlic, broccoli, and barley are all great plant sources of selenium. Tuna, sardines, and other meats like beef, chicken, pork, and turkey are good animal sources of selenium. Let's talk about iron. Iron is another mineral needed for healthy immune function. It's important as it helps the body to carry oxygen to our cells, and it comes in different forms. You might have heard of heme iron, which is found in animal sources, but your body also has the ability to absorb non-heme plant sources of this key nutrient, especially when you eat it with a high vitamin C food. Plant sources of iron include legumes, beans, peas, and lentils, tofu, tempeh, soybeans or edamame, as we might be more familiar with them, nuts and seeds, leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard, and beet greens, tomato paste, potatoes, mushrooms, hearts of palm, prune juice, and olives are good plant sources of iron. Animal sources include fortified breakfast cereals, cooked oysters, organ meats, sardines, chicken, turkey, and seafood. But again, be careful with the animal sources. They're very high in fat and cholesterol and can shorten a weight loss goal if that's something that you're working on. And it can also cause problems with vascular issues because they're very high in cholesterol. So be careful not to eat too much of the animal sources. Folate is a natural form, and folic acid is the synthetic form of this B vitamin. It's often added to foods in the process called enrichment. Folate is found in high amounts in legumes, asparagus, leafy greens, beets, citrus fruits, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, nuts and seeds, and fortified cereal and grain products like enriched breads, pastas, and rice, and other 100% whole grain products. Egg and beef liver are high folate sources from animals, but again, high in saturated fat and cholesterol, which is not healthy for our vascular systems and our brains. Vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant and helps your body fight off infection. Leafy green vegetables like kale and spinach, bell peppers, Brussels sprouts, strawberries, and papaya are excellent forms of vitamin C, as well as citrus fruits like oranges, grapefruits, lemons, and limes. Animal foods are not a good source of vitamin C, so make sure you load up on plants. Vitamin C is in so many foods that you may not need a supplement unless your doctor advises. Vitamin D is the only nutrient our body produces when exposed to sunlight. Salmon, herring, and sardines, cod liver oil, canned tuna, egg yolks, fortified cow's milk or soy milk, fortified orange juice, and cereals are excellent sources of D. D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and it is only found naturally in those foods that are high in fat. So eat small portions of those. Vitamin A. For vitamin A, go colorful. Foods that are high in colorful compounds called carotenoids are all great options. Your body turns these compounds into vitamin A. They have an antioxidant effect to help strengthen the immune system against infection. High vitamin A foods include carrots, sweet potato, pumpkins, cantaloupe, and orange flesh-colored squash like butternut. Finally, vitamin E is another powerful antioxidant and is also found in sunflower seeds, almonds, avocado, spinach, butternut squash, kiwi, broccoli, and olive oil. One of the key points that I want to leave you with today is this: don't rely on supplements to get your nutrients. Choose whole, unprocessed, or minimally processed foods for your source of nutrition. Your body will thank you for this choice, as whole, real foods contain nutrients in the form that our bodies can best absorb and use. And they also contain other components like fiber, which are key to our overall health, especially toward feeding the good bacteria in our gut. Now, if you can't find fresh produce, which we all seem to be able to do that, remember that you can always choose frozen. Manufacturers freeze frozen fruits and vegetables at their peak ripeness, which means that they'll have similar nutritional value to the fresh varieties. Just choose plain frozen fruits rather than those with added sugar and fats like butter sauces. Season your foods with herbs and spices rather than butter, sour cream, and other high-fat foods for improved health. I'm not sure if you're a big user of seasonings and spices, but ounce for ounce, they have the most amount of antioxidant phytochemicals that will help with our immune function. And they can also add flavor to foods when we start removing excess salt and sugar and other fatty foods. In sum, I recommend that you choose a wide variety of fresh and frozen fruits and vegetables. When you go to the grocery store, look for all the colors and think about changing up what you buy from week to week, making sure that you're getting lots of different colored fruits and vegetables. Choose whole grain breads and cereals, high fiber grains, old-fashioned oats, bran cereals, legumes and nuts, and minimize animal sources of nutrients for better immune and brain health. If you want to get your micronutrients measured and then obtain help choosing foods that will meet your needs, reach out to me. My business is called Transformative Nutrition and Fitness, and I'm located on the corner of Fishinger and Kenny Roads in Upper Arlington. I'd be happy to help you strengthen your immune system and eat for better brain health. I do very, very individualized programs for whatever your goals would be. Now, I want to add a couple of things here at the end, as I don't know if I got the message wrong, but I talked about immunity and everyone was talking about brain health. I actually love this book. I'm going to hold up to the screen for you. It's by two colleagues of mine called Dean and Aisha Sherzai, and it's called The Alzheimer's Solution, a breakthrough program to prevent and reverse symptoms of cognitive decline at every age. I actually had an opportunity to meet with these two very, very brilliant neurologists who are heavily into nutrition and lifestyle variables, as well as everyone who's spoken here. And they have put together something called the Neuro Plan for Nutrition. And in this middle of the book on page 126, there's this wonderful spectrum that I want to make available for you all through Jennifer. And it actually lists foods that are very beneficial, which I've talked about a lot: berries, greens, vegetables, beans, legumes, lots of herbs and spices, whole wheat foods. And then we get into foods that are neutral for brain health, which would be whole coconut, dairy-free butter spreads, processed soy foods, which are like the fake meats, pickles and olives due to the salt, egg whites, and then small fish, anchovies, clams, shrimps, oyster, sardines, scallops, and others. And then they have a list of foods that are actually harmful for the brain. And those actually include high sugar foods and high fat foods of animal origin, because again, of the saturated fat and cholesterol. So if you're wanting to take good care of your brain health as well as your immune system, I highly recommend this book. I think it's pretty accessible, and they've got wonderful information for brain health. And I would actually love to come back sometime and do a talk specifically on nutrition and dementia and Alzheimer's, because it's very, very exciting. Just like we can grow new brain cells, as Dr. Lauren spoke about this morning, you can actually reverse disease in your body through good nutrition and other lifestyle variables like exercise and stress management. So thank you very much for having me here. I loved being part of this group, And like everyone else, I'd be available for questions if you have them.
Hey, thank you, Diane. This is Lori. And, you know, when I do speaking on my own about brain fitness, or I participate in a symposium like this, it reminds me like it's doing what we keep hearing we need to do for our brain, but we keep resisting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a great reminder and new information from all the speakers today. But Diane, I had a question for you, because a lot of people, as they're looking at weight loss and maintaining a good weight, are looking at low carb diets. And a lot of things you mentioned as having fiber and nutrients have carbs. I mean, you know, breads and whole grains and things like that. So where do you fall in that carb debate?
Oh, what a great question. The meat and dairy industry have frightened us about carbohydrates, and it's really quite sad, because really the most healthful diet should be at least 60% carbohydrate. However, it's the kind of carbohydrate, the beans, the vegetables, the fruit, and a lot of people are like, oh, but there's sugar in fruit, but it's packed with fiber. And when you eat a banana or an apple, the fiber in it causes your blood sugar to raise more slowly. So it's a fascinating question. And a lot of people are actually harming their health by doing low fiber diets, because your brain uses 25% of the calories that you need every day. And if you actually don't provide it with enough carbs and sugar, it will actually take the protein that you're eating and convert it into a carb, because it's so necessary. And a lot of people on those high protein, low carb diets have brain fog. They feel terrible. So if you're following that, I would love to teach you a better way to eat, where you could actually eat far more food and lose weight naturally without really trying. Because eating the high carb, not necessarily lower, but lower protein way of eating, I actually teach people how to eat more and lose weight without wrestling so hard. It's really fun.
Oh, that's really cool. I wrote down your information too, and I'm going to track you down for myself. I've had the
Please do.
blood test, and it's anybody who hasn't done that, it is fascinating.
Yeah.
I had a cool question. Somebody asked for you to repeat the name of the book and the authors on that Alzheimer's book. So if you could show that again for us.
Yes, it's called The Alzheimer's Solution by Dean and Aisha Sherzai, Sherzai. They are two neurologists who have lost grandparents from Alzheimer's, and they are passionate about doing research. They put together a complete program, and I can't begin to tell you. They have a podcast. Catch them on social media. They are my favorite and most reliable people for brain health and nutrition.
Oh, thank you for that. Somebody asked that you could hold up that book and then they can get a screenshot.
Oh, absolutely. Can you, there we go.
Yep, that's good. And there's also another question about how important is it to buy organic?
You know what? If you can afford to buy organic, it's a great thing, because there are a lot of pesticides and chemicals. But the good news is that our livers naturally detox these things. But I mean, given the choice, if you can afford to eat organic, by all means do it. You will get cleaner food that doesn't have a lot of pesticides, and you will provide less stress on the body that will have to detox that. But don't be afraid. You hear a lot of things about detox diet. You don't need to detox. That's what your liver's for. It's a huge organ, and it's very good at doing what it does.
That's really cool. I have somebody in the office who's detoxing right now. And I'm sure for some people, it is good for them to stop eating crap. Sorry.
You know what I want to tell you something, Lori. There is actually more bad information out there about nutrition than there is good information, because everyone is really out just to make a buck and have some new gimmick and some superfood and some superfood supplement. But what I do is I really teach people how to eat whole, real food, and just go to the grocery store and keep it simple. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
There's also another question about the use of sprays for your fruits and vegetables. The participant wanted to know your opinion on that.
Sprays.
So she would be using sprays. They didn't.
I've seen in stores those they're just like a spray bottle with a particular kind of cleanser for fruits and vegetables.
Oh, cleansers for fruits and vegetables. Sure, absolutely. You can use those. It's a wonderful way to get off if you're going to buy conventional produce. Absolutely, use those cleansers. It's a great thing that you can use. But more importantly, I mean, a lot of times what I really do, this sounds crazy, but I'll take my little dish scrubber and I'll put a little dish soap and I'll clean the outside of my peppers and just wash them off.
Yeah. Jennifer, I know that, is there any other questions popping up in the Q&A?
There's no other questions right now.
I do have a thought though. So first of all, one participant asked about having some of this information emailed to them. So we will contact our speakers and ask if they have anything, that either a link that we can send in an email to all of you, or information that we can send as an attachment. I think that's a great thing we can do for the people who joined today live versus those who will be watching it later. So that'll be a nice feature for them. But any other thoughts? Because I wanted to ask Lauren, who was our first speaker, to wrap up. Is there anything else, Jennifer, that you have for Diane?
I did not see anything else. No other questions have come up.
Okay.
Thank you. It was very informative.
So stay on a second, Diane, just in case there's anything else. And then Lauren, I don't know if you can unmute and show your darling face on video. Hang on. So Lauren, my question for you is this. You joined us at the beginning and gave us a really good introduction to the topics that we're hearing today. So as you listen to each speaker, like, what is kind of the big takeaway? And, is there anything that came to mind as you heard them that you'd want to just sort of present now that we're at the end? Or is there a big takeaway for all of us? That's a really big question. Can you wrap us up, play us out?
That's a big ask, Aunt Lori, but I will try. No, I think that all of the speakers are really fantastic. And I do think that, my talk really introduced this idea that, aging, while aging is inevitable, cognitive aging is not necessarily inevitable. And there are things that we can do to protect ourselves against some of the cognitive declines that are kind of typically associated with aging. And one of the first things we talked about was mental health. Victoria did a great job of, providing some coping strategies and different ways to alleviate anxiety, which in this current climate is definitely needed for all of us. And so I know that that was a great way to kind of tie in this idea of how important mental health is. And she also touched on sleep, which I had mentioned also. There's a big misconception that sleep, you don't need as much sleep as you age, and that's just simply not true. You do need sleep. And so really thinking about your sleep hygiene and trying to think about the things that you learned today. Think of a checklist, go through, what am I doing to improve my mental health? What am I doing to improve my sleep? How can I improve my exercise and my cognitive, the tasks that I take on to improve my cognition, trying to put it all together. And at the end of the day, in thinking about both Diane and Victoria's talks on mental health and also the aspects of nutrition, both of those things, when we eat crappy foods or if we have a lot of stress in our lives that we aren't managing, both of those things can cause what's called oxidative stress in our brains, which is inflammation and ultimately leads to neurodegeneration. And we didn't have time to get into all of that, but that's what really came up as they were speaking. A lot of the things that they spoke about, in addition to the other sessions on, exercise, was all of the techniques and strategies that were discussed today are to really help to decrease that inflammation that's associated with our stress response and that's associated with poor nutrition and lack of exercise. And we're trying to compensate and improve all of those things by increasing our exercise, improving our nutrition, improving our mental health. And it all fits together. It's all incredibly important for our brain health, for our overall brain health. And so I think that these talks all went really well together. And it is important to have them together because I think that so often we focus on one area. Oh, I need to increase exercise, or, oh, I need to eat healthy. But the reality is we really need to be holistic in our approach to our physical health, but also our brain health, and thinking about it maybe in terms of a checklist, or thinking, reflecting on all the different talks you watched today. What's one thing that you could take away from each one to maybe incorporate a small change? And I also really liked in the exercise session how they emphasize you don't have to become, you don't have to become a marathon runner tomorrow. Just starting with small steps and starting where you're at, that can induce neuroplastic changes, and that can facilitate meaningful change. So in summary, putting it all together, I think that just taking that holistic approach and trying small steps is the big key.
Thank you. And if I were like Major League Baseball, I'd be piping in applause because all the speakers were so fantastic. Jennifer, do you have anything to take us off?
No, thank you to everybody who spoke today. Very informative. We'll be following up with an email to see what everybody thought, but we appreciate it. Your feedback is important, so look for a survey to come to your inbox. Also, like the Commission's Facebook page. We do have that, and check out our website. So we are thankful to all our speakers today. Couldn't have done this without you. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to the Commission, and we will make sure we get those questions answered for you. So with that, just thank you, everybody. Enjoy the last dog days of summer. And then stay tuned for future webinars through the Commission.